All right, welcome back, everybody. So today we're going to learn the next section for periodic inventory. This time we're going to be looking at Lifo. Remind you what the costing methods are. So we looked at FIFO yesterday, right? We looked at what it's like to have a grocery store and have to sell your items that you first buy. You got to sell them out first, right? The next one that we're going to be doing is called Lifo. Okay, so today we're going to be learning what it's like to have items, right? But this time, when we purchase our batches of items, we're going to sell the last ones that we bought first. Okay. So again, example could be like any electronic store or a cell phone store, right? Usually you end up selling your latest models over your older models. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at last in, first out. Okay. What you're going to notice here is that the formulas are going to be pretty much the same. The only difference here is when we actually calculate the cost of goods sold, which batches of inventory are we going to calculate first or get rid of first? That's the only difference here. You're still going to have to determine your purchase price. You're still going to have to determine your total cost. And the most important is because we have to keep our batches separate, it's very important that we do recognize the cost per item. Okay? Goods available still the same. You still got your beginning inventory plus your net purchases. Okay? And last but not least, cost of goods sold is when you have your goods available, subtracting out your ending balance. Okay. So here's our example here, where on June 1st, we made a purchase of inventory, okay? We made a purchase of inventory. We purchased 100 toys at $1.25 with a freight of 25. Okay, so again, we need to practice journalizing this. So purchase expense, freight expense, and how we paid for it. So here, $125 plus $25 worth of freight is going to give us a total of $150. We plug it into our inventory worksheet like this. Okay. Purchase price, we solved for that, right? Quantity times unit price, okay? Your total cost is going to be your purchase price plus your freight expense, okay? Which should give you, right, 125 plus 25 gives you a total of 150. And then we need to solve for our cost per item because this time we need to make sure when we do end up selling our items, we know which batch came first and which batch came last and which batch we're going to be taking out from first. So in this case, we're going to work backwards, or we're going to go from the bottom batch and then make our way all the way up to the top. Okay. So in this case, it's $1.50. Okay. Then we also had our second purchase here on June 11, where we purchased 100 toys at $1.28 plus $26 of freight. So again, purchase expense, freight expense, and a total of $154. We're going to plug those numbers into our inventory worksheet just like this. Okay. Again, we need to solve for the empty cells here. So again, we need to solve for our purchase price, straightforward, quantity times unit price, which gives you 128. And then we need to figure out what our total cost is. So in this case, 28 plus 26 gives you 154. And then last but not least, we need to solve for our cost per item. So in this case, we're going to take 154 divided by our total quantity of 100 to give us $1.54. Okay? Now we reach the end of our accounting period. So now we need to tally up our totals. Okay, so we purchased a total of 200 units at $253 with a freight of 51, giving us a grand total cost of $304. Okay, So once again, these four numbers are important because we're going to plug them into our inventory worksheet to solve for our net purchases. Okay. Once we have our net purchases, right, we know for a fact that we don't have beginning inventory. So then our net purchases end up becoming our goods available, right? And then, of course, we were also given that on June 15 that we had 80 units left. So in this case, we need to solve for our cost of goods sold, right? So in this case, if we have 200 available and we have 80 left on hand, our assumption is we must have sold 120 units. Okay? So now that we solved for our cost of goods sold, we now need to figure out how much of it's going to cost me in general. So in this case, I need to sell a total of 120 units. In this case, right, if we use the methods of Lifo, the last batch that we bought was the one on June 11. This one cost me $1.54, where the first batch only cost me $1.50, right? But because we need to use the rules of Lifo, we are going to take the latest batch first, okay? And we're going to plug it in, or we're going to calculate it from there. Okay, so 100 times $1.54 is going to give us $154. Now we need to determine we need to sell 20 items more to get to 120. So this is where we're going to take our 20 units because we only have one batch left, which is at 150, right? Then we can determine, okay, it's going to be 20 times $1.50, which gives us $30. So at the end of the day, my total cost of goods sold for selling 120 units is going to be $184 even. Okay. And then now we need to solve for our ending balance, which in this case, it'd be 80 times $1.50, or you could simply take your goods available, subtract out the cost of goods sold, to get you the remaining balance of $120. Okay. So let's again review this. Notice this. This time we started from our bottom batch. Okay. And then we continue going backwards, or in this case, we got rid of our latest batch first, and then whatever batch is available after that. So in this case, if you notice this trend, when we do FIFO, we start from the top and make our way down to the bottom. When we do LIFO, we start from the bottom and make our way up to the top. Okay? Any questions? So of course, right, because we've reached the end of our accounting period, we must do our adjustment entry to go ahead and convert our expenses into inventory. Okay, so in this case, right, we have inventory, cost of goods sold, purchase expense, and freight expense. So since we don't need to actually compute those numbers because we already done it by, again, looking at our numbers here. So again, we have our ending balance here, our cost of goods sold, and our purchase expense and our freight expense from the table of code. Okay. So now this time, what happens if I have beginning inventory? Okay. So of course, when I have beginning inventory, I'm going to pop it into my inventory worksheet on hand. But in this case, I don't have that slide, so that's our assumption is. And then when we do that, we continue with our purchases just as normal. So in this case, I have here June, it's supposed to be June 18. We end up purchasing 100 toys at $1.27 each, and the freight was $25. So same thing here. Purchase expense is going to be 127 plus my freight is going to be 152. And last but not least, we need to consider that we need to solve for our cost of goods sold, which is going to give us $1.52. And of course, we're going to have to do our next batch of purchases here, which is on June 23rd. So that's going to, right, it's going to be purchase 100 toys at $1.30 with a freight of 26. So in this case, 130 plus 26 is going to give you 156. Cost per item is going to be $1.56. Okay. Since we reached the end of our cycle here, because we're going to do our adjustments to our inventory at the end of June 30th. So in this case, right, we have 200 toys, okay, purchased, 257 total with the $51 of freight, giving us a grand total of 308 this time. So, right, we plug our numbers in. So then now all we're really solving here is going to be what our cost of goods sold is. Okay. So in this case, right, if we have a total of 280 toys, right, because we have beginning inventory, and we have 60 units left, then our assumption is we must have sold a total of 220 toys. So looking at our goods available, okay, this is the order that we have it. We have our 80 that we carried over from our previous one, which is our beginning inventory. And we made 2 purchases of inventory, one on June 18 and one on June 23rd. Now, in this case, it's exactly how we're going to look at it. We're going to cost it from bottom to top. So in this case, the last purchase that we made was on June 23rd for the $156. In this case, I need to get rid of a total of 220 toys. So that's the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the very last 100 that I just purchased. Okay? Next thing here is I have to get rid of another 100 because I need to get to a total of 220 units. So in this case, perfect. I can go ahead and get rid of my second batch of inventory here for $1.52. Okay, so then now I am left with getting rid of 20 extra more units to get to a total of 220. Okay, so in this case, I do have to calculate my actual cost per item here because I'm not going to take all 80 units. I'm going to take only 20 of those 80 units. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and plug it in $20 units here, multiply it by $1.50 to get me a grand total of $30. Okay? So then when I calculate my grand total here, it's going to be a total of $338 even. Okay? And then we need to recalculate this because now we need to recalculate our ending inventory, right? We know we have 60 units left, and this time we know it's at $1.50. So therefore, we need to also recognize that 60 times $1.50, right, is going to get you a total of 60 times $1.50 is going to give you a total of $90, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Or you could take your goods available of $428 minus $338, and you'll get $90. Okay. So in this case, right, when we have beginning inventory, what's going to happen is it should remain at the top of your window, or in this case, it should be your ending inventory becomes your beginning inventory for the new accounting period. But this beginning inventory ends up being your ending inventory because it's the first batch that you have in your inventory at all times. Okay? So again, imagine having a cell phone store, right? And you are trying to sell your older model of phones, you might have to put it on sale or super discount it. But in this case, it's always going to remain in your inventory because people would rather buy the newer, later model. Okay? Right? So, of course, last we got to do here is we got to put in our conversion entry. And the last thing that we need to put in here that we need to recognize is, right, we have beginning inventory. Okay. Chapter review. So once again, we took a look at chapter 5 here, right? We took a look at how to journalize a purchase, and we also took a look at the conversion entry. So in this case, there it is. Okay. So, chapter 2 exercises. Okay. Right. So here on April 5th, we have here. So again, number 1 says inventory method is going to be periodic, and at this time it's Lifo. So again, we need to calculate our cost. Now in this case, for the journal entry, okay, we can go ahead and practice this, all right, again, how to journalize everything. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you practice the second half of the journalizing, okay? Just because the first one, this is the exact same problem from yesterday, okay? So it's going to be the same exact answers. So we'll practice journalizing the second half of the scenario, okay? So the first half, we're going to go ahead and practice the just plugging it into our inventory worksheet, and then the second half we'll go ahead and practice journalizing. So on April 5th, we purchased 1,000 units at $5 each with a freight of 100. So taking my inventory worksheet here, the first one, okay. All right, it is April 5th. We bought 1,000 units at $5 each with a freight of 100. So what is my total purchase price here? Right? Quantity times unit price is going to give you 5,000. Total cost, $5,100. So in this case, right, exactly what you said. We're going to take the purchase price plus the freight to give you total 5,100. And now we need to solve for our cost per item. Cost per item. Let's try that again. Yeah, it's going to be the $5.10. Okay, good. Now, let's see what happened next. Right? April 10 rolls around, and we end up purchasing 750 units at $5.75, okay? And the freight was $75. So it's April 10. April 10. We purchased 750 units at $5.75 each with a freight of $75. So what's my purchase price here? Plus 75. And then last but not least, what is my total cost per item? $5.85. Okay, good. And then on April 20th, right, we end up purchasing 200 units at $6 each with a freight of 20. Okay, so April 20, we purchased 200 units, $6 each with a freight of 20. So what's my purchase price here? $1,200 plus 20 gives me a total cost of $1,220. Right. So that means my cost per item for this batch is going to be $6.10. Okay. And then last but not least, on April 25th, we made our last purchase of 500 units at $6.25 each with a freight of 20. With a freight of 50. Okay. So on April 25th, we have bought 500 units at $6.25 each with a freight of 50. Okay. So what's my purchase price here? Okay. Plus 50. All right. Giving me a grand total cost per item to be $6.35. Okay. So here's our last statement here that says on April 30th, you end up having 600 units on hand. So that means I reached the end of my accounting period. So now I need to solve for my total costs here, or my total totals here. Tally up my totals. So in this case, what is my total amount of items that I purchased? What's my total quantity? 2,450. What's my total purchase price? Okay. My total freight? $245. And last but not least, what is my total cost? Good. Okay. So in this case, right, these are my totals here, right? I'm not going to highlight it because we've already done this yesterday. Okay. So let's go ahead and plug in our numbers, right? We got 200 that we purchased, right? At a total of 13,687. For now, we have no returns and allowances. So in this case, we subtract 0, okay? Because again, if we have any purchase returns and allowances, that's going to decrease our inventory as well as the total cost of our inventory. Okay? Freight adds 0 to quantity, but it does add to the actual cost. Okay? So in this case, let's add up our totals here, right? Since quantity does not increase, but the total cost will increase, okay? It will get you a total of $13,882.50, right? Now here our assumption is we don't have any beginning inventory. Okay? And if we don't have any beginning inventory, and we carry our values from above here because that's where we solved for our net purchases, then our net purchases become our goods available because we don't have beginning inventory. Sorry, excuse me for 1 second. Okay. So then now once we got that right, now we know for a fact that at the end of April, right, it tells us right here that someone went down to the basement, counted all the inventory, and told you that you have 600 units left on hand. So that means your ending balance is 600 units. So in this case, how do I solve for my cost of goods sold? How do I solve for my cost of goods sold?
Goods available, subtracting your ending balance.
Good. So in this case, how many items did I sell? Since I'm looking at quantity right now.
1,850.
1,850. So I need to figure out what my cost of goods sold is, okay? So in this case, right, I need to tally up my totals to figure out how much it cost me to sell these items. So if you want to create your little small table, you can, okay? I'm going to name this cost of goods sold. Right? And we're going to go ahead and tally up our totals. So in this case, right, now we are using Lifo. Okay? We need to go through our inventory batches and determine which one are we going to sell from first. So in this case, let's take a look at our batches of inventory. Which one are we going to sell from first? From April 25th, right? In this case, that's 500 units at a total cost of 1,175. So we're going to get rid of that inventory batch first. Okay. Now, what I like to do too first is I like to do a running balance. So then every time I add my numbers in there, right, I constantly know how much more I need to keep selling and how much I've added up my totals up to. So in this case, I do equal sum in the bottom right here. Okay. And for a fact, I know that the last batch, right, was I sold my first 500. Okay. And it cost me $6.35 each. Again, that's my reference point. But I don't need to calculate it because I already know that's going to give me a total of $3,175. Okay? So there you go. I got rid of my first 500 items. How many more do I need to keep selling?
$1,350.
Say that again. What are we going to do? 1,380. 50. Yes. Good. Now, so that means it's going to ask us to keep going. So in this case, which batch of inventory am I going to sell from next? Since I got rid of this last batch here of 500, right? Which batch of inventory am I going to dip into next? April 20th, right? We're going to get rid of our 200 units. So in this case, 200 units, right? Which cost me a total of, $6.10 each, which I already know is going to give me a grand total of $12.20. Okay, there you go. So that gives me a total of 700. I still have a long ways to go. So in this case, I eliminated my batch that I purchased on April 20th, okay? So therefore, which batch I'm going to take out from next? April 10th. Now, question to you, am I going to take some of it or all of it? You need to take all of it because right now, you need to still keep selling another 950, right? Or, 950 or even more, 1150. So in this case, I definitely can get rid of that 750 units. So let's tack on this, so 750. Since I'm taking all of it, right, it's going to cost me $5.85 each, which I already know is going to yield me $4,387.50, right? So then now I'm at $14.50. How many more do I need to keep selling to get to $850? 350. So in this case, if you can't do math in this, you could use Excel and say, well, if I need to get to 1850, right, and I have 1450, I need 400 more, okay, to get me to 1850, okay? So in this case, right, if you're not sure, right, you could have typed in 350, right? And that would give you a direct answer right there saying, oh, I need to sell 50 more units because I'm only at 1800. I need to get 1850. So in this case, you could test it that way too because you can always remove and add your answers there. So that's the really good thing about having your running balance in there so we can always double check to confirm if this is the correct amount that we need to sell. So in this case, I only have one batch of inventory and it's going to cost me $5.10 each. So therefore, I actually need to figure out this number. I need to calculate how much it's going to cost me to sell 400 units at $5.10. 2040. Okay? So that means here I got rid of my second batch, but at the end of the day, my remaining batch I have left is in the very first batch that I purchased. Okay. So then, adding up my totals, when I do sell all 1,850 units, then now I am resulting to get a grand total of $10,822.50. Okay. So, how do I solve for my ending inventory?
You get your net purchase and subtract from cost.
Okay, good. Let me erase that formula. So I'm going to take, so this case, it's goods available, which is your net purchase, minus your cost of goods sold. So in this case, I should get a total of $3,050. Another way that you could do it too is if you know that you have 600 units left, you can also multiply it by $5.10 and you would also get the same exact answer. Okay, so I'll put the mini table down here. Okay. And I'll say this is ending. Right? If it's 600 units at $5.10, right? You'll get your ending balance to be 3,060 units. Or it's $3,060. So now that we have all of our numbers computed here, let's go ahead and plug in into our journal, right? Because we need to complete our conversion entry at the end of the accounting period. But every time you do your inventory worksheet, that is the last thing that you need to do. Okay. So how do I convert my inventories? What was that? That's not going to come first, but it's definitely one of the accounts.
Inventory.
Right, we need to right, we're doing our conversion entry. So in this case, we need to recognize our ending inventory. Okay. What else do you need to do? You need the cost of goods. Okay. And then your purchase expense. And then last but not least, freight expense. So now let's go ahead and determine what was the ending balance in your inventory. What was the total value?
10,822. No, 3,000.
Good, right? That was the cost of goods sold, but I'll go ahead and link that too, that the cost of goods sold was the 10,882.50. Okay. What was the total original purchases? What was your total purchase expense, or in this case, purchase price? You can either refer it from up here, or you can refer it down here.
13,000%.
Correct, right? And then what was your total freight? $245. Okay, and of course, rule of thumb here is we need to ensure that our total debits of $13,882.50 matches our total credits of $13,882.50. All right, and last but not least, I'm going to finish up my my description here to saying that this is a conversion entry. Okay, conversion entry for periodic inventory purchases. Okay. Awesome. So let's go ahead and finish up the next section here. All right. So now it tells us that we need to do a continuation of the inventory. Okay. But this time we're going to be going ahead, and it just gives us a reminder that your inventory methods are periodic, and it's once again Lifo. So taking a look at this number, right? We have beginning inventory, right? On April 30th, we had 600 units on hand. Okay? And we know that because we calculated it as well, right? Down below here, my ending inventory was 600 units at $5.10 each, giving us a grand total of $3,060. So therefore, I'm going to take that information and I'm going to put it in my inventory on hand section because this is my beginning inventory, right? $5.10 giving me this, right? It's preferably to go ahead and like copy and paste it like from the previous worksheet, but in this case, this is pretty straightforward in regards to the numbers. The numbers are rounded, okay? Tomorrow we'll take a look at what's like to deal with unrounded numbers, okay? Because we're going to be looking at weighted average. But in this case, this is what we have here, and I can go ahead and tally up my totals here because I know that my beginning inventory is going to leave me with 600 units, okay, at a grand total of $3,060, okay? If you like to, you can even highlight this so then you can know that this is your totals, okay? So, there you go. So now that I plugged in my beginning inventory, I now need to go ahead and plug in my total purchases. So on May 5th, we end up purchasing 500 units at $6.25 each with a freight of 50. Okay, so second inventory worksheet. It is May 5th. We purchased 500 units at $6.25 each with a freight of 50. So what is my total purchase price? $3,125 plus 50. 75. Okay. Giving you a cost per item to be $6. Oh, I thought I'd punch in my formula. $6.35. Okay. So let's go ahead and see what happened next. Okay. Now it's May 10. We end up purchasing an additional 800 units at $6 each with a freight of $80. So let's go ahead and plug those in. So it is May 10. We purchased 800 units at $6 each with a freight of 80. So in this case, what's my purchase price going to be? $4,800. And then total cost plus 80. $4,880. And last but not least, what is going to be my cost per item? $6.10. Okay. Then on May 20th, we end up purchasing 300 units at $6.15 with a freight of 15. Okay. May 20, we purchased 300 units at $6.15 with a freight of 15. So in this case, what's my total purchase price here?
1,845.
Okay. Right. Giving me a total cost of
1,860.
okay, which will give me a cost per item to be $6.20. Okay. Last purchase is going to be on May 25th. Oh, we forgot to do the journal. Oh, well, it's okay. May 25th, purchase is going to be 100 units at $6.30 each with a freight of $5. Okay. So again, purchase 100 units at $6.30 with a freight of 5. May 25th, 100 units, $6.30 with a freight of 5. So, total purchase price plus my freight to give me a total cost of. Okay. Last but not least, cost per item is going to be $6.35. Okay. So now that we've reached the end of our accounting period, right? May 31st, you had a total of 400 units on hand. Okay. Now in this case, let's tally up our totals. So what was our total amount of purchases that we made? What was my total quantity? 1,700. What was my total purchase price? $10,400. Okay. Plus, oh, I'm sorry. What is my total freight? $150, giving me a grand total cost of $10,550, right? You have either choices. You can either just add across or you can actually add up your totals here. That's what I just used Excel for. I just tallied up the totals, but you could have gotten the same answer by adding these two numbers here. Okay. So now let's go ahead and plug our numbers into our inventory worksheet. So quantity I purchased was 1,700 at a total of 10,400. We don't have any returns or any allowances. So therefore, that should keep us at the same amount, right? Because we're subtracting 0. Okay. Freight adds nothing to quantity, but it does add to cost. So here, 150 is going to be my freight. We're going to add up our totals here to get to 10,550. Okay. And then let's see what happened next here. We have beginning inventory, right? What was that beginning inventory? What was my beginning inventory?
1,700.
My beginning inventory.
Oh,
The 600, right? That's what I started out my inventory with, was I had 600 units at a total of 3,060. Okay? I'm going to carry my net purchases that I saw from above, right? And I'm going to tally up my totals here because now this is how many goods I have available. So in this case, 600 plus 1,700 gives me 23. There we go. All right, and then we're going to add these totals up to get $13,610. Okay? So now, of course, we were given that on May 31st, you had a total of 400 units available. Okay, so that's going to be 400. So in this case, right, what's my cost of goods sold? If I started out with 2,300 and I have 400 units left, what's my assumption that how many items did I sell? You sold 1,900. So once again, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick highlight over here because I'm going to be tallying up my totals here. Okay. Now, I'm also going to build my table once again. Right, I'm going to call this my cost of goods sold. Right. So, following the rules of Lifo, okay, which batch of inventory am I going to take out from first? May 25th, that's correct, because in this case, we purchased things after we had our beginning inventory. Our beginning inventory is going to act like it's the first thing that we have, right? This is all the way at the top of my list, where every purchase is going to be, going down in my list, right? So in this case, the last thing that I have in my inventory is going to be this one that I bought on May 25th. So 100 items, right? 100 units at $6.35 each, giving me a grand total of $635. So I'm just going to copy this, right, at $635, giving me a grand total of $635. Okay. So there you go. I sold my first 100, which, again, it'd be good to have a running balance here so we can know how much to sell. So right now we have a total of 100 units, right, at a grand total of $635. Okay. So we need to sell a lot more. We need to sell 1,800 more. So in this case, which batch of inventory am I gonna get rid of next? The 300, right? So if I have to go ahead and get rid of the 300, that is what I'm gonna do. Okay, so 300, right? $6.20 each is going to give me a grand total of that $1,880. Okay, so there you go. I got rid of that 300 units. So I have 400. So I still have 1,500 more units to go. Okay, so let's keep going. What's the next batch of inventory that I'm going to take out from next? May 10, right? We're going to get rid of May 10. May 10 was a total of 800 units at $6.10 each, giving you a grand total of that $480. So 610, which I know to be to give me a total of the $4,880. Okay. So then that gives me 1,200. I need to still sell 700 more units. So in this case, which batch am I going to sell out next? I still need to sell May 5th, right? In this case, all of it or some of it. We're going to end up getting rid of all of it. So 500 units at $6.35. Okay, so 500 units at $6.35. Okay, which will give me a grand total of $3,175. So now I got rid of all of my net purchases. Okay, so then now, which batch of inventory do I have to dip into now? Because I still need to sell 200 more. Right, I need to sell 200 more. So which batch of inventory am I going to sell out from next? From my beginning inventory of the 600 units. So in this case, it cost me $5.10. So I need to calculate this myself. How much is it going to cost me to sell 200 of those units at $5.10? $1,020. Okay. So therefore, I end up getting rid of all my net purchases, right? And that means at the end of the day, I still ended up with 400 units from my beginning inventory. So in this case, right, that brought me to a grand total here to be $11,570. Okay, so in this case, what is my total ending inventory? And then you can make your little table here too if you want to. What is my total ending inventory? Okay. No, oh, that's the quantity. I'm talking about the cost. $2,040. So I can take my goods available of 13,610 minus 11,570 to get 2,040. Or once again, you can take your simple math here. Take the 400 times the 510 to give you 2040. All right. Good job. Last but not least, we have to do one last thing, and that is to do our conversion entry. Okay, so this time it's on May 31st. Okay, conversion entry, what is it going to include? It's going to include inventory. What else? Cost of goods. Freight expense, good. Anything else? You already have ending. It's up here.
Oh, okay. I remember that. The conversion entry.
Okay. Okay, so then let's go ahead and just solve and then we'll figure it out there, okay? So in this case, what was the total balance of my ending inventory? 2040. What was the total cost of goods sold?
11,570.
Right? What was my total original purchases, so my purchase expense?
10,400.
Right? What was my total freight? 150. So let's go ahead and do our okay, so I got 13,610 on the left versus 10,550 on the right. So if you want to do your math here, so 13,610 minus 10,550, I am missing $3,060. And where do I see this $3,060? It's your beginning balance. So in this case, it's my beginning balance in my inventory. Okay? So every time you have beginning balance in inventory, right, you always need to refer to inventory twice, right? One for the ending and one for the beginning. Okay? Any questions for this particular problem? Okay, so let's go ahead and do the second portion of the exercises here. So I do have exercises 2. So it's just one more scenario here. This time we're actually looking at June's dates here. Your journal, I only want you to just practice the conversion entry, just because once again, journalizing the purchase expense and the freight expense, it's pretty straightforward, right? It's going to be the same thing, rinse and repeat over and over and over again. The only difference is just the numbers that we put in there. So again, if you want to, for the first exercise, right? Since there's so much journal space, you can practice journalizing those transactions if you'd like. Okay, it's just a good way to keep practicing. But in this case, again, it's rinse and repeat. It's the same thing that we did from the previous one, so it's the same thing that's going to happen for this next one. Okay, so you're still using the same exact journals. Now in this case, to save you some time here, I've already entered in all of the information for you. So all we are going to be actually doing is just to calculate and get our results. Okay, so the first one on June 1st, we ended up buying 1,250 units at $1.08. So what is my total purchase price here? Okay. 1,250 times $1.08. It's going to give me 1,350. Good. Plus my freight of $150 is going to give me a total cost of $1,500. So in this case, what is going to be my cost per item here? $1.20. Now in this case, right, I just want to ensure, is this correct? Yes, it is. It's $1.20. So this is a rounded number. Awesome. Okay. Then on June 5th, I end up buying another 850 units at $1.10 with a freight of $100. So in this case, what is my total purchase price here? $935 plus 100, $1,035. So then, what is my cost per item going to be?
Do we round?
Well, go ahead. Just tell me as many digits as you can get up to.
I'll say 122.
Okay, so you said 122. Now, if I do extend this, this is where you are talking about, right? Do I round or do I not round? This is a decision that you would have to make on either behalf of your company, or the company has to tell you what they want to do. Now, in this case, right, if I round this up to $1.22, right, if I round up, that means I lose out on my profits because I cost myself too much. Okay? Now, in this case, right, if I leave this number unrounded, that means it's still going to be 0.24 cents, that you're saving, right? But think about it. If you're going to be selling thousands of units, right? Every half penny, every quarter penny, all of that is going to make a difference. Now, you said, let's go ahead and do it at 122, right? So if I sold all 850 units, yes, it's going to be $13.35. But if I end up costing myself too much, then I'm going to lose out on my profits, because every 1,000 items that I sell, right? That's $2 I just lost to profits. Okay?
So 121.
So, okay, so you want to round down. Now, in this case, what I'm going to teach you is not to round at all. You only are going to be learning to round at the very end. Okay? Because in this case, right, we want to keep our numbers unrounded for the reason of, because we don't want to lose out on profits, right? Especially if you are a small kind of business. Now, of course, if you're a corporation, what is a penny? It's nothing. Even if I sell thousands of units, right, I'm still making a profit at the end of the day. But if we're looking at a smaller business like us, where every penny that we spend should count, then every penny you should count. Okay? Even if it's a half penny, quarter penny, tenth of a penny, you should count that, because it does affect your overall profits at the end of the day. Because if you're selling, again, if you have a tenth of a penny and you choose to round up, you would lose out a whole dollar for every 1,000 items that you sell. That's not a good thing, right? Or for every 100 items, you lose out $1. Okay? So in this case, since we are selling thousands and thousands of items, right, it's best to not round until the end. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that if I were to sell, let's say, 500 units out of this, right, I would calculate 500 times the 1.21765, right? And the number that I yield, right, my result, that number is what I'm going to round up to, okay? Not the cost per item, okay? So if you want to see a difference, right, let's take a look at an example here. So if I had 500 units, okay? And I have it currently at this $1.2176, and let's say compared to $1.22, right? If I sold this, right, compared to selling this, right, right here, like I've mentioned, right, it would cost me $6.10 if I rounded early. But if I didn't round it, here I get $608.82 as a cost. This is the money that I spent. Now when I'm looking at profits, right? Right here, I already lost $1 and what is that? 18 cents worth of profit because I chose to round too early. So this is what I mean by that rounding error, that rounding issue. I would choose to round towards the end of my inventory versus the beginning of my inventory. Like I round not the cost per item. I round the total cost. Okay? So that's the great example of the difference here of why I am going to teach you to not round yet. But if your company tells you you need to round it off, then that's what your company is going to do. Now, if you do round off, you still need to keep in mind that, think about it. Okay, if I go ahead and do my calculation, and I have what 850 units, right? And I round it at $1.22, is that going to yield me the same cost? In this case, my cost is a total of $10.37 even. Is that how much I purchased my inventory for? No. So in this case, if your company tells you that you're going to round up, you need to be very careful on your calculation as well because you cannot exceed for what you just paid for, right? In this case, I'm not gonna put invisible $2 in my cost because I never purchased it at $10.37. I purchased it at $10.35. Okay, so that's where you have to also be careful here as well. Okay. All right, so in this case, I'm going to leave these numbers unrounded. So, next scenario we have here is on June 8th. We purchased 700 units at $1.09 each with a freight of 85. So, what's my total purchase price here? $763 plus $85 worth of freight gives me a total cost of $848, which will bring my cost per item to be good. Okay. So in this case, I want my, okay, so good. So that's another unrounded number. Then on June 10, we end up purchasing 1,600 units at $1.12 with a freight of 200. So in this case, my total purchase price is okay, plus $200. Good. Giving me a cost per item to be 1.245. So in this case, I have a split penny going on here. This is the most dangerous type of rounding you can deal with just because are you going to choose to round up in your inventory? Or are you going to choose round up to your cost of goods sold? Always, always round up your cost of goods sold and leave your inventory down. So that's causing you, once again, the idea of the principle where you're conservatism. You would choose to round up when you cost it, but you choose to round down because you want the option to least likely overstate your assets. So in this case, I would choose the lower amount for my assets because it will not overstate them. It will not cost higher than what the value should be. Okay? So there you go. That's an example there too. Then on June 12th, you bought 600 units at $1.20 each with a freight of 70. So, what is my total purchase price? 720 plus 70, 790, giving me a cost per item to be $1.31667. Okay. Then we have,
But it's actually $1.31, it stays at that, right?
what do you mean?
Do you have to include the numbers after that?
Yes, because I'm going to show you to round towards the end. If you keep it at 131, your numbers are going to be way off compared to mine. So then, but if you, are you using Excel or are you using your pen? Okay. Well, in this case, if you are doing this, try your best to punch in as many numbers. So the rule here is at least 5 or 6 digits after the decimal will give you the rounding up to the nearest penny. Okay. All right. Last one we have here is 120. We purchased on June 14. We purchased 1,200 units at $1.25. So what is my total purchase price here? 150 or 1,500. Okay. Plus 150.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right,
No worries.
that 0.
And my total here
300?
at 1650. My total cost.
Oh, I calculated wrong, okay.
Okay, so you add your 1,500 plus your 150. Okay. All right. So in this case, what is going to be my cost per item here?
$13.75, or no?
You were close. You were off by you were too many zeros or too less zeros.
My thumb is too big for the keys on my calculator.
That's okay. Okay. So there you go. It should be $1.375. So another split penny going on here. Okay.
Oh, $13 is way too much.
Yes. Okay. So there we go. Now that we've reached the end of our accounting period, we need to solve for our totals here. So I'm going to highlight this so you can tell the difference. Okay. So in this case, what was the total amount of items that I purchased? $6,200. Good. What was the total purchase price? $7,060. All right. What was your total freight? So let's see, 150 plus 100, 250. It's 200, 350, 4, 500, 650. Oh, I missed the 85. Huh. So,
Is it 955?
what was that?
Oh, it's 7.
Yeah, so okay. So, 5, okay. Then you got 5 plus 8 is 13, plus 7 gives you 20. Okay, so I should carry 2 over. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, 755. All right, giving you a grand total cost of, so you can just add the 755 to the 7,060 to give you a total of 7,815. Okay. So let's go ahead and plug our numbers in. So we have a total of 6,200 units at a grand total cost of, or in this case, purchase price of 7,060. No returns here and no allowances. So therefore, that's going to still give me my purchases. Okay. Freight adds nothing to quantity, but my $755 do affect my total cost. Okay. So we're going to add our numbers together to get my 7,815. Right. In this example here, I did not have any beginning inventory. Okay. So therefore, when I carry down my net purchases, my goods available is going to be beginning plus net in this case, right? My net purchases becomes my goods available because I didn't have anything to begin with. So now here's the last thing that we need to do. What was the ending balance in my inventory? So it says right here that on June 15, you had a total of 500 units on hand. Okay? So if I had a total of 6,200 items available to sell and I only have 500 units left, how many items did I sell?
$5,700.
5,700, okay? So then let's go ahead and use the LIFO concept here. So I need to solve for my total cost of goods sold here, okay? So let me see, how many batches of inventory do I have? 2, 4, 6. Okay, so 2, 4, 6. So let's put my cost of goods sold table here. Okay, so in this case, right, let me do my running balance so we know how many units we need to keep selling or what we already have. Okay. Okay, so using the concept of LIFO, which batch of inventory am I going to sell out from first? The last one of 1,200 units. Okay, since I'm going to get rid of all of it, 1,200 units at $3.75, which we don't need to calculate because we already know at the end of the day, it's going to yield me a total of the 1950, right? We're going to get rid of the whole thing. Okay. All right. So then, 1650. All right, so now that we got rid of our first 1,200 units, we definitely have a lot more to keep selling. So in this case, which batch of inventory am I going to sell from next? The 600, right? All right. We're going to get rid of my 600. So 600 at $1.3166666666. In this case, we don't need to solve for it because we already know it's going to cost me a grand total of 790 units. Okay? Which batch of inventory I'm going to take out from next?
The 1600.
The 1600, right? Which cost me $1.245, right? Which again, we already know what that price is going to do or what that cost is going to give me. It's going to give me a total of $19.92. So now I'm at 3,400. I still have a long way to go. I still have roughly about 2,000 more units left to go. Okay. So now that I got rid of these two batches of inventory here, which batch of inventory am I going to sell from next? The 700. So in this case, definitely we need to sell all 700 units. Okay. And that 700 units, right? So then we take all of it. It's going to cost me $1.1143, which I don't need to calculate that because I already know that's going to give me a total cost of $848. Okay. So now that I got rid of 700, I'm at 4,100. So I still have like 1,000 left to go, roughly. So in this case, which batch of inventory am I going to sell from next? I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the 850, okay? Which in this case costs me $1.21765, which again, I already know what that total cost is going to be. It's going to be $10.35. Okay. So now that I got rid of these two batches, I only have one batch of inventory left. Okay. So in this case, since I only have one batch of inventory left, how many units do I need to sell? So right now I'm at 4,950 and I need to get to 5,700. So again, I'm going to do my math here. 5,700 minus 4,950. So how many more items do I need to sell? 750. And I only have one batch of inventory left. So it's going to cost me $1.20 each. So in this case, I need to solve for it because I'm not taking all of it. I'm only taking a portion of it. So in this case, I do need to calculate what 750 items at $1.20 is going to cost me. $900, bringing me a total of $7,215. So in this case, that's my total cost of goods sold for selling 5,700 units. Okay, and of course, I'm gonna go ahead and build my table here for my ending balance. Okay. All right, because we know we should have 500 units left, and the cost per item is the $1.20. So therefore, what is my total ending balance? 600. Okay, so in this case, that's also the same thing. If I took my goods available of 7,815, subtracting out my cost of goods sold of 7,215, you should get the same number of $600. Okay. Any questions in regards to periodic LIFO?
No.
Okay. No. Okay. So what I'm going to have you guys do, so let's